just like you said, Nigeria is not the only country affected by this brain drain. Pakistan, India,
Yes.
among others. So, with the concept of Japa that is now very much talked about in Nigeria, what and what would you advocate that those in authority put in place to mitigate the hunt for greener pastures?
Yes, the enabling environment has to be created. You know, pay the doctors. As we are speaking now, the House of Rep Speaker is trying to stop another strike by resident doctors. They ask for training allowance, you will not want to give them training allowance. They ask for hazard allowance, you are paying them peanuts. The same hazard allowance that was being paid them in the early 80s. They had to go on a nationwide strike before the hazard allowance was increased. The environment has to be made conducive for them to want to practice here. A lot of them will remain here if you pay them good wages and you create opportunities even for training, for them to train abroad, to get abreast with latest trends. If you provide the right equipment at all the 3 tiers of the health sector, talking about the primary, secondary, and tertiary health institution, provide the equipment, which are the tools that they need to work with. Increase their pay. We've got to pay doctors well because these are people who save lives. So you cannot pay some people peanuts because people's lives are in their hands. You know? So a lot of them want to develop, they want to have they want to be abreast with latest trends. So if opportunities for training abroad are introduced, I'm sure a good number of them will stay. Then in the hinterland, you also need to give incentives to doctors so that they can stay in the rural areas and work for our people. Because I'm not just concerned about the fact that they are going abroad. I'm also concerned about the fact that in the rural areas, we do not have doctors, enough doctors to take good care of our people. We can't stop people living, but when they are living at the rates at which they are living, then we should be worried. In 2015, 233 Nigerian doctors moved to the UK. In 2016, it rose to 279. In 2017, the figure was 475. In 2018, the figure rose to 852, Ibrahim. In 2019, it jumped to 1,347. Yeah. So within a space of just 4 years, 3 years, it moved from 233 going to UK to 852. Wow. Then in 2019, it went to 1,347. In 2020, despite the COVID, 833 Nigerian doctors moved to the UK. And by 2021, 932 moved to the UK. I can tell you that for 2022, or 2021, if 2021 it was 932, I can tell you that for 2022, it will be a lot higher. Because as at March this year, 200 Nigerian trained doctors, March, in 1 month alone, 1 month, 200 Nigerian trained doctors were licensed in the US, in the UK. Not just talking about UK, they are going to other places. So by the time all of the figures are put together, it's really, really troubling. A government that is forward-looking has to address the problem, has to find a way to arrest this drift. We can't just fold our hands and say, economic migration is a normal thing. Even Americans are going to China to work Americans are learning Chinese language, are going to China to work. The rate at which they are leaving our country, compared to the rate at which we are producing them, is the reason that I think that government has to do something drastically.
Yeah,
You
because
can't have like a quarter.
right. I want to quickly chip in this question by Alabi Idon. It says, why do we have wide wage discrepancy among civil servants in Nigeria, which seriously discriminates against medical doctors and professors in Nigeria? Because is there any remedy?
For what?
Discrepancy among or between civil servants in Nigeria, which seriously discriminates against medical doctors and professors.
Yes, I know that is a problem. It has to be addressed. Some doctors trained outside Nigeria get discriminated against, especially at the level of the examination that they do here to get certification. I think the health minister and other stakeholders need to look at that problem and find a way to solve it. I've had this complaint a number of times, and I know that if it is not a significant problem, they won't be complaining about it.
Temitope Bola Gade says, to become a doctor or nurse in Nigeria is very cheap in training compared to other countries. It's a pity other countries are reaping from that process. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, it's true. And that is why it's painful. It's a lot cheaper to produce doctors here, because you and I know that education, especially in public universities, is still very, very cheap. Public universities, in terms of the fees that they take, it's still very cheap, you know. But the quality of those doctors produced here is not in doubt, because they go out and they excel. They sit for entry examinations in those places, and they do well, and they are licensed. If Nigerian doctors trained here were not good enough, they won't be, the GMC in the UK won't be licensing them as they are doing. As I said, if 200 doctors can be licensed in 1 month in the UK, that should tell you that these doctors are well sought after, and nurses and midwives too.